The galaxy was vast, far larger than most species could imagine, filled with stars that burned like silver candles in the darkness. Planets teemed with life, civilizations rose and fell, and empires stretched their influence across hundreds of light years. But among all these worlds, one small blue planet spun quietly in its own corner, almost forgotten. That planet was Earth. Earth had long been considered insignificant by the great powers of the galaxy. Its people were young, technologically primitive, and unprepared for the wider universe. Many species, looking down from their crystal cities orbiting distant suns, whispered that Earth would not survive the century, and for a time, it seemed they might be right. The Thalorians, a species of luminous beings with translucent skin and glowing eyes, had observed Earth for decades. They had the ability to see far beyond normal space and read the faint currents of energy that hinted at a planet's potential. They saw in humans a spark, something rare and unexplainable. Even though humans were weak compared to other galactic civilizations, they had a strange adaptability, a stubborn persistence that refused to die. The Thalorians had debated among themselves whether to intervene. Their laws forbade direct interference in a developing civilization, yet their leaders knew the galaxy's other powers would crush Earth if left alone. Finally, a decision was made. They would help, but quietly. No alien signatures would betray their actions. No records would survive that could trace the aid back to them. The humans would rise on their own, but with guidance, subtle and unseen. In the beginning, their help was small. Satellites carrying advanced sensors appeared mysteriously in Earth's orbit. Natural disasters were mitigated in ways scientists could never fully explain. Crops thrived even in harsh seasons, and some inventors found their work mysteriously inspired. No human knew why, but the planet began to survive, and slowly it began to grow. Among the Thalorians, one observer was more fascinated than the others. Her name was Luria. Unlike her kin, she had an unusual fondness for humans. She watched their cities grow, their conflicts flare, and their small victories, and each time she felt a thrill. Humans were fragile, but they fought. They fell, yet they rose again. Their stubborn hope, their strange loyalty to one another, even in the face of disaster, was unlike anything Luria had seen elsewhere in the galaxy. One evening, as she drifted silently above Earth in her luminous form, Luria watched the cities twinkle below like scattered fireflies. She paused over a small settlement in what humans called the Midwest. The people there were struggling through a harsh winter, their resources low and their spirits nearly broken. She sent a subtle wave of energy into the soil, a gift that would nourish the crops when spring came. Nothing more. The humans would never know why their harvests were better than expected, but it mattered little. The seed had been planted, both literally and metaphorically. Meanwhile, Earth's political leaders were too busy surviving to notice. Nations bickered, sometimes violently, over resources and technology, but slowly, humanity began to adapt. Their scientists developed technologies that defied earlier limits. Their engineers built machines that were more efficient and resilient. Even ordinary people learned to rely on each other in ways that strengthened the entire species. The galaxy's larger civilizations ignored this small planet, convinced that nothing could emerge from it. They did not see what the Thalorians saw, potential. But the galaxy was never still. While Earth quietly strengthened, elsewhere empires grew. Ships that could cross light years in days patrolled trade routes, enforcing taxes and rules. Some species hoarded technology, ensuring that no weaker civilizations could rise. Rumors spread that a great conflict would erupt, one that could swallow whole sectors of space. The Thalorians observed these events with quiet concern. Their decision to help Earth, even subtly, now seemed more urgent. They began to intervene in more daring ways. Disguised probes sent data to human scientists, showing them concepts far beyond their current understanding. Materials that could withstand extreme conditions appeared in labs as if by accident. Some humans discovered them and marveled at their design, assuming they were simply ingenious inventions. Others dismissed them as anomalies. Either way, progress accelerated. Luria often visited Earth in her true form, though unseen by human eyes. She wandered through forests and plains, observing people as they worked, argued, and laughed. There was one city, sprawling and chaotic, where she spent hours watching a young engineer named Marcus. He had an unusual gift for invention, though he struggled to make it practical. Luria nudged reality slightly, guiding him toward solutions without ever revealing herself. Over time, Marcus's creations grew more advanced, helping his city survive harsh winters and severe storms. One night, as Marcus looked up at the stars, he felt a strange warmth. He could not explain it, but he felt certain that someone somewhere was watching and caring. Luria smiled, invisible, and drifted higher into the sky. Humans did not need to know the truth yet. They only needed to live, to grow, to survive. Years passed. Earth slowly changed. Its people learned to cooperate in ways their ancestors never imagined. Conflicts still erupted, of course, but a sense of unity emerged in times of crisis. Humanity became clever, resilient, and surprisingly resourceful. Even the Thalorians, who had watched countless species rise and fall, found themselves impressed. The galaxy, however, remained dangerous. A coalition of alien empires, each more powerful than humanity could imagine, began to expand their reach. Worlds were conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. Traders spoke of fleets that could obliterate entire planets. These rumors finally reached the Thalorians. They realized Earth could not remain hidden forever. The moment might come when humans faced threats they could not handle, and the Thalorians had no right to intervene openly. Still, they hoped it would not come to that. They continued their silent support, providing knowledge and subtle guidance to ensure that Earth's people would not be defenseless. In the minds of most Thalorians, humans were a fragile species, but one that could surprise. Perhaps, they thought, humans could rise to meet the galaxy's dangers if given time and subtle help. Luria's thoughts often returned to Marcus. He had become a leader among his people, inspiring them to take risks, to build, and to reach beyond their limits. She wondered what humanity might achieve if they ever realized they were not alone in the universe, if they understood that another species had quietly guided them. But that day was far in the future. For now, humans had to grow on their own, facing small challenges that prepared them for the larger trials to come. And so, the Thalorians watched. They watched Earth spin in the darkness, watched cities rise and fall, watched humans live, hope, and strive. They watched quietly with pride, knowing they had given humanity a chance that few other civilizations would ever receive. For the humans, life continued. They built, fought, and dreamed. They argued over borders and beliefs, yet in their hearts an unspoken bond connected them. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was fate, but they were stronger together than alone. And somewhere in the distant stars, the Thalorians smiled, believing that one day this small blue planet might shine among the stars, not as a curiosity, but as a force to be reckoned with. Luria drifted silently above the forests one final time before returning to the Thalorian Council. She knew that humanity's time was coming. One day they would face the galaxy openly. One day they would repay the unseen debt. And when that day came, the universe would learn something the Thalorians already knew. Humans were not merely survivors, they were extraordinary. For now, though, Earth was safe. The Thalorians had kept it that way, carefully, quietly, and with great hope. The galaxy might forget this small planet, but the Thalorians would never forget. And one day, when humans finally looked up at the stars and stepped beyond their world, they would see that the kindness of one species had set them on a path to greatness, a path that no other civilization could have carved for them. Decades had passed since Earth had quietly grown stronger under the unseen guidance of the Thalorians. The humans had changed, though the galaxy still regarded them as weak, isolated, and unimportant. But in the shadows of space, the galaxy was restless. Powerful civilizations expanded their reach, claiming worlds and resources with little thought for the lives they destroyed. Planets fell one by one, their inhabitants crushed or enslaved, and rumors of war whispered from system to system like a dark wind. Earth, however, remained unnoticed, at least for now. Its people had grown clever and resourceful. Cities had grown taller, factories more efficient, and satellites orbited the planet, scanning the skies for threats humans could scarcely imagine. Yet despite these advances, the human species had not yet seen the full dangers of the galaxy. Luria observed them from afar. She drifted in the upper atmosphere, invisible to human eyes, watching as humans went about their daily lives. There was still a sense of innocence in the way they lived, laughing children in streets, farmers tending fields, engineers solving problems that had no simple answer. And yet, Luria knew that innocence would not last. The galaxy's danger was drawing closer. Far from Earth, in the depths of the Orion expanse, a coalition of alien empires gathered. They were called the Varnac Alliance, a combination of species united by a desire for power and fear of competition. They had heard rumors of a small blue planet resisting the odds, and their leaders considered it a threat, not yet because of its power, but because of its potential. Every species knew that even a single unexpected variable could upset the balance of an entire sector. Admiral Xylo of the Varnac fleet was the first to suggest action. He had seen planets like Earth before, small and fragile, and watched as they fell into chaos or were crushed under the weight of larger empires. "We cannot leave it unchecked," he said, his voice cold and commanding. "If we allow this world to grow, it may become a problem. We strike now before it has the chance to rise." His words carried weight. The Alliance had grown complacent, believing themselves unstoppable. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued peacefully for most. Cities thrived, technology advanced, and people explored space in small numbers, testing the boundaries of their solar system. But some noticed odd signals, unusual patterns in the stars, and strange anomalies in communications. Scientists debated theories, calling them natural phenomena or unexplained events. Few guessed the truth. Alien ships were moving quietly into position, and the galaxy's attention had finally found Earth. Marcus, the engineer Luria had watched years ago, was now a leading figure in Earth's exploration and defense programs. He had grown older, wiser, and more cautious. His inventions had saved cities from disasters, improved transportation, and strengthened Earth's defenses. Yet even he could not predict what was coming. One evening, as he adjusted a satellite array in orbit, he noticed strange readings, disturbances that suggested movement far beyond the solar system. He called his team immediately, but the patterns were unlike anything humans had encountered before. "It's too coordinated to be natural," one scientist whispered. "Could it be an advanced asteroid swarm?" "This is deliberate, something is coming." Earth had never faced an external threat of this scale. In secret, Luria communicated with Marcus. Not directly, not in words, but through subtle influence, dreams, hunches, sudden insights. Marcus began to see solutions, to prepare defenses he would have previously thought impossible. Under his guidance, Earth began mobilizing its fleets, adapting its technology for warfare the humans had never trained for. Despite these preparations, the alien armada arrived sooner than expected. The first ships appeared at the edge of the solar system like dark mountains floating in the void. They were massive, armed with weapons capable of destroying planets. Even the most advanced human fleets were dwarfed by their size. Yet humans refused to panic. Instead, they focused on their strengths, strategy, adaptability, and ingenuity. Earth's fleets launched interceptors, small, agile ships designed for speed and flexibility rather than sheer power. They used the solar system's planets as shields, darting between asteroids and moons to avoid detection. The aliens were shocked. They expected a simple conquest, a quick sweep, a demonstration of power, but humans were not predictable. They adapted with astonishing speed, using tactics no other species had tried, exploiting weaknesses in the enemy's formations that only humans would notice. On the ground, cities began to prepare as well. Evacuation plans, resource stockpiles, and emergency protocols were implemented. Humanity's cooperative spirit shone. Strangers helped one another, communities came together, and engineers worked tirelessly to strengthen defenses. Despite fear, the people of Earth refused to surrender. The Thalorians debated intervention. Some argued that Earth should be left to its own devices. The humans had grown strong, but they were still fragile. The Varnac fleet could crush them entirely. Others, including Luria, felt a deep responsibility. They had guided this species from obscurity, helped them survive when no one else would, and now their proteges faced annihilation. Yet the Thalorians could not act openly without risking the galaxy noticing. Their only choice was to continue subtle assistance, guidance, inspiration, and small interventions that might tip the balance. The first major battle took place near Mars. Humans had positioned a fleet of smaller ships in a narrow corridor between the planet and the asteroid belt, forcing the Varnac ships to advance cautiously. Using gravity wells and improvised weapons, the humans managed to destroy several of the enemy vessels. News of this unexpected victory spread quickly, filling Earth's population with hope. For the first time, humans realized they were not as powerless as the galaxy believed. Despite the triumph, the cost was high. Human fleets suffered losses, and some cities experienced minor attacks from alien drones sent to scout defenses. Marcus, now commanding the defense fleet, felt the weight of every decision. Each maneuver saved lives but risked others. Every choice mattered. Luria, watching from afar, felt both pride and worry. Humans were clever, resourceful, and brave, but they were also fragile. She could not intervene directly, yet every time a human made the right choice, it felt as if she had guided them herself. She had done everything to prepare them for this moment, and now the true test had begun. Over the next weeks, skirmishes continued throughout the solar system. Humans adapted faster than the aliens could predict. They created new weapons from salvaged alien technology, repurposed civilian ships into combat vessels, and coordinated strategies across multiple planets. Their ingenuity frustrated the Varnac commanders, who had never faced a species that learned so quickly, that could respond to unexpected tactics with such precision. On Earth, citizens were both terrified and inspired. Children watched as adults worked tirelessly, constructing defenses and monitoring the skies. Communities shared resources, repaired damaged infrastructure, and supported the families of those fighting in space. The crisis brought out humanity's best qualities: courage, cooperation, and determination. In one quiet moment, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Central Command Station, staring at the stars. He could see the alien ships, massive and imposing, yet he felt something no other human had ever felt before: confidence. He understood that Earth had been prepared for this moment, not just by technology, but by decades of survival, ingenuity, and guidance that humans themselves could not fully comprehend. Luria drifted close, invisible and radiant. She did not speak, but she felt a connection with Marcus, with all of humanity. They were ready, perhaps not completely, but enough to survive. Enough to fight, enough to show the galaxy that humans were not to be dismissed. The Varnac Alliance had underestimated Earth. They had expected an easy conquest, a display of power over a primitive species. Instead, they encountered resistance, innovation, and courage. Each failed attack only fueled human determination. The Alliance began to realize that Earth was no ordinary planet, and its people were no ordinary species. As the solar system burned with the fires of conflict, Marcus prepared for the next stage. The humans had survived the initial invasion, but they knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would come again, and humanity had to be ready, not just to survive, but to prove their worth. Somewhere beyond the stars, Luria and the other Thalorians watched. They had given humans the tools, the knowledge, and the inspiration. Now, humans were showing the galaxy that they could stand on their own, that the spark of resilience could grow into a flame. And in that flame, Luria saw something extraordinary, a species that might one day change the balance of the universe itself. For now, Earth fought. And with every battle, every decision, every act of courage, humanity grew stronger, more united, and more capable than any other species could have imagined. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not to be overlooked. And when the humans finally looked up at the stars, they would see that the universe was vast and dangerous, but also full of possibilities. The Varnac fleet hovered in the outer edges of the solar system, massive ships glinting like black monoliths against the distant sun. They had underestimated humanity, and now that mistake was becoming costly. Despite superior numbers and firepower, the Alliance's forces found themselves countered at every turn. Human strategies were unlike anything the alien commanders had faced: fast, adaptive, and entirely unpredictable. Marcus stood in the command center of Earth's flagship, his hands moving across holographic displays. Star charts, fleet positions, weapon ranges, all of it shifted constantly, changing as new threats appeared and disappeared. Marcus had learned to think like his enemies, to anticipate their moves while staying one step ahead. It was exhausting work, but every decision saved lives and strengthened humanity's resolve. "What do we do next?" asked Lieutenant Kara, her voice tight with tension as she studied incoming data. "They're regrouping, but they're not advancing the way we expect." "You mean lure them closer to Mars?" Unlike the Varnac commanders, Marcus did not rely solely on raw power. He used the environment, their own assumptions, and human unpredictability. That was their advantage, and they would exploit it fully. As the fleets moved, Marcus felt a subtle vibration through the command deck, a faint signal that was not entirely from the ships. Luria was near, invisible but present, nudging human understanding in small ways. Marcus did not know who or what was guiding him, but he trusted his instincts. He had learned to trust the strange flashes of insight that often led to success. The trap was set. Human ships darted between asteroids, disappearing and reappearing, using small strike teams to harass the larger Varnac vessels. The aliens struggled to coordinate their massive fleet, unable to anticipate the sudden changes in human tactics. One by one, the Varnac ships were forced into narrow corridors between rocks and moons, where they were vulnerable. Then the humans struck. Missiles and energy beams fired from hidden positions, striking with precision that shocked the enemy. Entire squadrons were destroyed before they could react. Human pilots coordinated flawlessly, improvising maneuvers that no alien simulator could predict. Each victory, small or large, built confidence among the crews. They were no longer just defending, they were taking the fight to the invaders. On the ground, Earth cities were in a state of tense readiness. Citizens volunteered to help in any way they could. Engineers repaired damaged stations, volunteers reinforced infrastructure, and medical teams prepared for casualties. The human spirit was unwavering. Fear existed, but it did not paralyze them. Instead, it sharpened their focus, strengthened their unity. In one command hub beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, scientists monitored alien communication signals. They discovered that the Varnac fleet was coordinating through a complex network of frequencies. By intercepting and decoding these signals, humans gained a crucial advantage. They began jamming enemy communications, sowing confusion and causing disarray in the ranks. Alien commanders found themselves arguing over contradictory orders, unable to understand how such a small planet could create so much disruption. Marcus watched the chaos with a mix of relief and determination. Every move the humans made was precise, every decision critical. The survival of the planet depended on their ability to outthink and outmaneuver the enemy. Amid the chaos, smaller teams of humans executed daring missions. Pilots volunteered for high-risk operations, navigating tight asteroid fields to strike critical enemy targets. Engineers developed improvised weapons using salvaged alien materials. Civilians participated in logistical support, ensuring that supplies, energy, and resources reached the front lines when they were needed most. For the first time, many of the Varnac commanders realized that humans were not simply reacting, they were innovating. Each countermeasure humans deployed prompted the enemy to rethink their strategies, and each failed attempt by the aliens further boosted human morale. Stories of daring victories spread quickly, inspiring more courage. Lurya observed all of this with quiet pride. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their success came from more than mere luck. They were learning, adapting, and working together in ways that few species ever had. The Thalorians had given them guidance, but now humans were proving that they could rise to any challenge on their own. Back in the flagship, Marcus received a report from a forward squadron. One of the smaller alien vessels, heavily armed and fast, had broken through human lines and threatened a key orbital station. Immediate action was required. Marcus took a deep breath. "Prepare the intercept team," he said. "We'll take that ship down before it reaches the station. Kara, coordinate with the fleet. Everyone must act as one." Human pilots, using a combination of speed, agility, and clever tactics, engaged the enemy vessel. It was a tense and dangerous battle, with ships weaving through asteroid fields and exchanging fire at impossible ranges. The alien ship was powerful, but its size made it slow and cumbersome. Humans used every advantage, striking from unexpected angles, dodging attacks, and exploiting weaknesses. After a fierce struggle, the alien vessel was destroyed. The human pilots cheered, knowing they had prevented a disaster. Marcus allowed himself a brief smile, though he knew the battle was far from over. The Varnac Alliance had vast resources, and more attacks would come. On Earth, the victory lifted spirits. People celebrated in small ways, supporting one another and recognizing the courage of those who had fought. Yet the adults understood that the war was only beginning. Humanity had proven its resilience, but the galaxy had not yet seen the full measure of what humans were capable of. Across the stars, other civilizations began to take notice. Rumors of humanity's ingenuity, courage, and adaptability spread quickly. Some species, previously indifferent to Earth, began to rethink their assumptions. If a primitive species could hold off a powerful fleet, perhaps humans were not as weak as the galaxy had believed. The Varnac commanders, frustrated and humiliated by repeated failures, convened a council. "This species is extraordinary," Admiral Xylo admitted, his voice sharp with irritation. "They adapt faster than we can predict. They fight in ways no simulation can replicate. We must reconsider our strategy." They cannot resist forever. Marcus and his teams developed new tactics, leveraging their understanding of the enemy's behavior and the environment of their own solar system. Engineers built faster ships, better shields and weapons that exploited the vulnerabilities of the alien fleet. Humanity's adaptability became their greatest strength, and every challenge they faced only made them stronger. Luria drifted above Earth, invisible, observing the people below. She could see the determination in their eyes, the courage in their actions, and the ingenuity in their inventions. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were becoming leaders in their own right, and the galaxy would soon learn that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. As the sun set over human cities, casting long shadows over streets and fields, Marcus stood looking at the horizon. The battles had only just begun, but humanity had proven something vital. They could fight back, even against overwhelming odds. They could adapt, survive, and win. And in their victories, no matter how small, they were rewriting what the galaxy thought it knew about life on Earth. The Varnac Alliance had underestimated humans at every turn. They had assumed weakness, simplicity, and compliance. Instead, they had found courage, ingenuity, and resilience. Every small victory for humanity was a lesson, every clever tactic a demonstration that Earth's people were extraordinary. And somewhere beyond the stars, Luria knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had faced their first true test, and they had risen to it. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but Earth's people were proving that even a small, seemingly insignificant species could challenge the greatest powers in the universe. For now, the humans had won a temporary reprieve. But their eyes were open, their minds sharp, and their hearts full of courage. They would face the next wave with the same ingenuity and determination, ready to show the galaxy that humans were not just survivors. They were a force unlike any other. And the Thalorians, watching silently from the stars, knew that humanity's time was coming. One day, humans would no longer fight only to survive. They would fight to reshape the galaxy, proving that their species was extraordinary, and that Earth was a world no one could ignore. The alien fleets had underestimated Earth, and the cost was becoming painfully clear. Their massive ships, built for intimidation and raw firepower, struggled to anticipate human tactics. The smaller, faster human fleets darted through asteroid fields, used planetary gravity to their advantage, and struck where the enemy was weakest. Each battle added to humanity's experience, their confidence, and their reputation. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship, his eyes scanning the stars for signs of movement. Reports came in constantly, each one a mix of danger and opportunity. He had become more than a commander. He was a strategist, a mentor, and a symbol of human determination. Every decision he made could change the course of the war. "Sir, the Varnac supply fleet is moving toward Jupiter," Lieutenant Kara reported, tension in her voice. "They're trying to regroup and reinforce their front lines." While the Varnac commanders relied on brute force, humans relied on adaptability, improvisation, and speed. They knew how to exploit the enemy's weaknesses, and now they were ready to take the fight to them. The first target was the supply fleet. Humans devised a plan that combined stealth, speed, and careful coordination. Smaller ships would lure the enemy into a narrow corridor near one of Jupiter's moons, while heavier attack vessels waited in ambush. Engineers had even adapted alien technology to enhance weapons, creating tools that the Varnac had never seen before. As the operation began, human pilots navigated the corridor with precision. They darted between moons, using gravity to boost speed and conserve energy. The enemy was caught off guard, unable to predict the humans' movements. Missiles struck from unexpected angles, energy beams cut through the hulls of enemy vessels, and communications within the Varnac fleet broke down under the surprise attack. The humans celebrated small victories but remained cautious. Every move had to be precise, every strike carefully calculated. Mistakes could be deadly, yet their courage never wavered. They had faced fear before and had adapted, learned, and survived. Now their confidence fueled their actions, and their skill made them deadly opponents. On Earth, the population watched the progress with awe and pride. People were not just waiting for news, they were part of the effort. Engineers, volunteers, and support teams ensured that fleets remained supplied, communications stayed secure, and civilians were safe. Humanity had become a unified force, each person contributing to the survival of their world. In the middle of the battle, a new challenge appeared. A massive Varnac warship, larger than anything humans had faced before, emerged from hyperspace. It moved with deliberate force, aiming directly for the Earth flagship. Its weapons could destroy multiple human ships in a single strike, and its shields seemed nearly impenetrable. Marcus did not hesitate. "We adapt," he said, voice calm and resolute. We find a way or we make one. All units focus fire on the ship's energy cores. Use the asteroid field for cover and coordinate your attacks. We can do this. Meanwhile, heavier vessels struck at weak points in the hull, using synchronized bursts that the Varnac shields could not withstand. The battle was intense, each second critical, but the humans' adaptability once again proved decisive. After a fierce struggle, the massive alien warship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The debris scattered across space, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and bravery. Cheers erupted throughout the human fleets, but there was no time to celebrate fully. The Varnac Alliance still had other ships, other threats, and the war was far from over. Meanwhile, Luria watched from above Earth, her translucent form drifting silently through the atmosphere. She had guided humanity in small ways for decades, but now she observed something remarkable. Humans were no longer just following instructions, they were leading themselves. They made decisions, adapted to circumstances, and learned from every encounter. They were evolving in real time, becoming something greater than any species had predicted. On Earth, Marcus convened a meeting with his senior officers. "We've proven that we can fight back," he said. "But we need to think bigger. We can't just defend our solar system forever. We have to push the enemy back and show the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated." Using intelligence gathered from previous battles, humans identified vulnerable outposts and supply routes. Small, agile teams were assigned to sabotage operations, disabling weapon systems, disrupting communication networks, and slowing reinforcements. Every successful mission weakened the Varnac forces and strengthened humanity's position. The alien commanders were growing frustrated. Their numerical advantage and massive ships had not yielded the expected results. Every attempt to suppress humanity was met with unexpected resistance. Patterns they assumed to be reliable were constantly disrupted by human innovation. They began to realize that Earth's people were not only surviving, they were excelling. Back on Earth, civilians continued their own quiet battles. Scientists developed new technologies inspired by recovered alien equipment, improving shields, propulsion systems, and weapons. Engineers worked day and night to adapt infrastructure for potential attacks. Communities supported each other, demonstrating the same courage and ingenuity seen in space. Every person contributed, reinforcing the idea that humanity's strength was not in individuals but in their unity. As the humans pressed the offensive, the galaxy began to take notice. Traders, observers, and distant civilizations spread stories of Earth's fleet, of their ingenuity, courage, and unexpected victories. Rumors circulated that humans were not weak, that they could adapt faster than any species had anticipated, and that they were capable of turning the tide against even the most powerful foes. The Varnac Alliance convened another council, tension thick in the air. "We underestimated them," Admiral Xylo said firmly. "They are not merely surviving, they are leading attacks, destroying ships, and outmaneuvering us. Every time we think we understand them, they change the rules. They are not just one planet. They are a species that learns, adapts, and unites in ways we cannot predict. We must reconsider, or we risk losing much more than we gain." Each victory, each clever maneuver added to humanity's growing confidence. They were no longer on the defensive, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Luria drifted near the edge of the battlefield, her luminous form shimmering in the void. She felt pride and relief. Humans were no longer just following her guidance. They were proving themselves capable of leadership, innovation, and courage on a scale that even the Thalorians had not anticipated. They were becoming something extraordinary, something the galaxy could not ignore. On Earth, Marcus stood once more on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The battles were far from over, but humanity had learned a crucial lesson. Survival alone was not enough. They had to think, adapt, and fight as a united species. Every victory reinforced the belief that Earth's people were not to be dismissed, not by the Varnac Alliance, and not by any other civilization that might challenge them. As night fell across human cities, lights twinkling like stars reflected on the surface of oceans and rivers, Marcus felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. Humans had endured countless challenges, adapted to every obstacle, and now they were demonstrating to the galaxy that they were not just survivors, they were capable of greatness. The Varnac fleets had been pushed back, their attacks disrupted, and their confidence shaken. For the first time, they realized that humans were a species unlike any they had encountered, adaptable, courageous, and clever beyond expectation. The galaxy had underestimated Earth for too long, and now it was beginning to learn that humanity could not be ignored. And somewhere above, Luria observed silently, her heart full of hope. Humans were no longer just a fledgling species. They were becoming leaders, innovators, and warriors. The galaxy would soon see that the planet they had dismissed as insignificant was, in truth, a world of extraordinary potential. Marcus turned back to his team. "We've done well," he said, voice steady, "but we're not finished. The enemy will come again, and when they do, we'll be ready. We fight not just to survive, but to prove who we are and what humanity can achieve." And the universe ever so slowly began to take notice. The alien fleets had been pushed back, but the battle was far from over. The Varnac Alliance, humiliated by repeated defeats, regrouped in the outer reaches of the solar system. Their pride was wounded, and their commanders burned with frustration. They had underestimated humans at every turn, and now they faced a species that refused to be crushed. On Earth, Marcus and his team prepared for the final stage of the conflict. Months of skirmishes had taught humanity to adapt faster, fight smarter, and act with unity no other species could match. Engineers had upgraded ships, improved weapons, and strengthened defenses. Pilots had mastered tactics that relied not on brute force, but on ingenuity, coordination, and courage. Humanity was ready, not just to survive, but to strike decisively. "This is it," Marcus told his officers as they gathered around the holographic display. "We've defended our solar system, but now we have the chance to end this. We can force them to retreat, and we can show the galaxy that Earth is not to be ignored. Every ship, every pilot, every system must act as one." Using intelligence gathered from previous battles, they identified the enemy's key supply lines and weak points in their command network. Strike teams would infiltrate these positions, disable weapons, and create confusion. Meanwhile, the main fleet would engage the remaining enemy ships, using speed, agility, and clever tactics to overwhelm them. Luria watched from above, her luminous form drifting silently over Earth. She had guided humans for decades, subtly influencing discoveries, inspiring innovations, and nudging leaders toward the right decisions. But now she observed with awe as humans acted on their own. They no longer needed her guidance. They were leading themselves. The species she had once helped in secret was ready to claim its place in the galaxy. The first engagement began near Saturn. Human ships darted among the rings, using the dense asteroids as cover while targeting enemy supply convoys. Missiles fired from hidden positions, disabling engines and weapons before the aliens could react. Small strike teams infiltrated enemy formations, creating chaos and breaking cohesion in the fleet. The Varnac commanders were taken by surprise. They had expected humans to continue defensive strategies, to react cautiously. Instead, Earth's forces attacked with precision and creativity. Every move seemed to anticipate their own tactics. Confusion spread across the enemy fleet and panic began to set in. Marcus watched the battle unfold on his console. "Good," he said quietly. "They're reacting exactly as we expected. Keep pressure on them and never give them a chance to regroup." Pilots navigated through asteroid fields, using gravity wells to accelerate attacks. Engineers adapted alien technology to create new weapons mid-battle. Civilians on Earth monitored communications, repaired damaged systems, and coordinated supplies. Every human contributed to the fight, proving that their strength lay not just in weapons, but in unity, intelligence, and resolve. In the midst of the battle, a massive Varnac warship emerged, attempting to rally their fleet and restore order. It moved deliberately, firing devastating energy beams that destroyed several human ships. But humans adapted instantly. Smaller vessels acted as decoys, drawing fire while heavier ships struck at the warship's energy cores. Pilots coordinated attacks with split-second timing, exploiting weak points the aliens had assumed were secure. After a tense struggle, the massive warship exploded in a blaze of light. Its destruction sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet, breaking morale and forcing remaining ships to retreat. Humans had not only defended their solar system, they had begun to reclaim it. On Earth, citizens celebrated cautiously. They knew the war was not yet over, but hope burned brighter than it had in decades. Stories of courage, ingenuity, and daring spread quickly. Humans were no longer passive survivors. They were leaders, innovators, and warriors. Their victory had proven that even a seemingly weak species could challenge the mightiest empires. The Varnac commanders convened again, frustration turning to desperation. "This species is extraordinary," Admiral Xylo admitted. "They are not predictable. They adapt faster than we can anticipate. Every attack we plan is countered with brilliance. We cannot defeat them through conventional means. We can overwhelm them with numbers." Small teams of pilots infiltrated remaining enemy bases, disabling weapons and seizing technology. Engineers adapted the captured materials to strengthen Earth's fleets further. Communication networks were repaired and optimized. Every victory added to the humans' confidence and skills. Luria watched silently, her radiant form reflecting in the oceans and skies below. Humans were no longer just surviving. They were thriving, evolving, and proving to the galaxy that they were extraordinary. Every battle, every victory, every act of courage showed that Earth was no longer a forgotten planet, but a force to be reckoned with. Marcus convened a final council with his officers. "We've forced the enemy to retreat," he said, "but we cannot be complacent. The galaxy has seen what we can do. We must show that we are not just survivors, but leaders. We must be ready for whatever comes next." The universe was vast and full of dangers, but humans had proven that they could meet any challenge. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth began to rebuild and expand its presence in the solar system. Cities recovered, fleets were repaired and upgraded, and civilians contributed to scientific and technological progress. Humanity's unity and determination had transformed their world, making them stronger and more prepared for the future. Beyond Earth, the galaxy took notice. Other civilizations, once indifferent or dismissive, began to respect humans. Traders, explorers, and observers spread stories of their courage, ingenuity, and victories. Rumors circulated that Earth was no longer a weak, isolated planet, but a hub of innovation and determination. The Varnac Alliance retreated, their pride wounded, their fleets diminished. They had learned a valuable lesson. Humans were not a species to underestimate. Their adaptability, courage, and unity made them unpredictable and dangerous. The galaxy would remember this lesson for generations. Luria drifted silently over Earth, her heart full of pride. Humans had proven themselves capable of greatness. They had fought bravely, adapted cleverly, and shown the galaxy that they were extraordinary. The species she had once guided in secret had grown into leaders, innovators, and warriors. The time had come for humans to step fully into their place in the universe. Marcus stood once more on the observation deck of the flagship, looking at the stars. He knew the galaxy was vast and dangerous, but he also knew that humanity had the courage, intelligence, and unity to face it. The people of Earth had survived their greatest test and emerged stronger. They had repaid the silent debt of the Thalorians not with fear, but with courage, creativity, and determination. As night fell over human cities, lights twinkling like stars on the surface of oceans and rivers, Marcus smiled. The battles were over, at least for now. Humanity had proven that they were not merely survivors, they were extraordinary. They had faced impossible odds and shown the galaxy their worth. And somewhere in the distant stars, Luria and the other Thalorians watched silently, knowing that the species they had once helped in secret was now ready to shape its own destiny. Humans had not only survived, they had risen, leading with courage and unity, proving that even a small, forgotten world could shine brightly among the stars. The galaxy had been reminded that Earth was not to be ignored. Its people had learned that unity, ingenuity, and courage could overcome even the greatest powers. And as humans looked to the stars, they knew that their journey was just beginning, that the universe was vast, full of challenges and wonders, and that they were ready to meet it all. For the first time in history, Earth's people stood proud, united, and unstoppable. The debt they had repaid was not measured in currency or technology. It was in courage, determination, and the unshakable spirit of humanity. And the galaxy would remember forever that humans were extraordinary.